One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Royal Blue podcast sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue podcast sound check. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. It's the Monday show, it's the Leicester reaction show, and we are live. And I am your host, Ian Croll. Joining me on today's show, as always, to talk all things Everton, we've got Everton FC reporter Chris Beesley. Chris, how are you? All good?
Yeah, okay. Bit stiff, bit like the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz this morning. To be honest, went to the gym this morning after playing in the Dan K charity game yesterday. I obviously don't play as regularly, the 90 minutes as much as Gav does. So obviously feeling a bit now, but it's a great game, playing in the right spirit for a great cause as well. Our former colleague Dan K, and if anyone wants to make a donation there, so you can see online on my Twitter feed there, they've seen the details there for the Dan K Foundation. But yeah, it was an honourable 2-2 draw between the two sides, all Dan's former friends and colleagues there. So yeah, enjoyed that one.
And did you get the good weather? Not like Saturday?
There was a bit. It did start raining, but yeah, it was nothing compared to what we endured the previous day. Obviously Joe and I were in the press box at the King Power Stadium, and you could see all the lightning sort of flashing above our heads, and all the Leicester fans certainly towards the front of the stands hiding for cover towards there. So we were concerned that Everton might have been on course for a first win of the season, only for it to be abandoned. But it didn't turn out like that. But yeah, very heavy driving back as well from the East Midlands. So I hope everyone got home nice and safe.
Absolutely, and me and Gav were literally just joking about that, weren't we? As we came in, whether typical Everton to be winning and then the game to be postponed. How are things, Gav? All good?
Bit wet, mate. I just walked across. It was a little bit biblical outside. Talk about Saturday. I mean, that was one of the worst set of conditions I've ever seen a football game played. Seen an Everton game, ever. And when they said they were extending the half time by 5 or 6 minutes. And on the telly, it didn't look as though the conditions were getting easier. I thought, this could go here, And but they kept it going, didn't they? I'm sure it affected how the game was played in the second half, as we'll probably speak about. But yeah, it was touch and go at one stage, wasn't it? Really.
It was. Okay, well, the usual plugs then. Give this video a thumbs up, give us a like. Support is greatly appreciated, and also subscribe to the channel. Notifications, you get a notification when we upload the video or we do go live, and as mentioned, we are live. So join the debate and drop us a comment in the comments section. The agenda, well, it's kind of been thrown up in the air, really. I think we were mainly going to discuss Leicester, maybe focus on a couple of players and talk about Branthwaite. But news this morning that the Friedkin Group have re-entered negotiations for the purchase of Farhad Moshiri's shareholding in Everton, despite previously pulling out. And our understanding is that a deal is close and things are potentially moving quickly. So that is the main first talking point. But we'll obviously talk about Leicester as well and the 1-1 draw and reaction to that. So we'll go straight into it then. Takeover. Bloomberg financial journalist David Hellier broke the news this morning on Twitter, and his tweet read, US billionaire Dan Friedkin is closing in on a takeover of Everton FC, the Premier League team that has been struggling to find a buyer. Alan Myers also tweeted, he said the Friedkin Group have re-entered negotiations to purchase Farhad Moshiri's shareholding in Everton despite previously pulling out of a deal. I understand the deal is very possible despite American billionaire John Textor being in the final stages of agreeing a deal with Moshiri. Myers also continued, my understanding is a deal is very close with Friedkin and could involve an equity investment of £400 to £500 million into the club. And finally, it was confirmed by our Business of Football writer Dave Powell with a story on the Liverpool Echo website, which you can read now, that is online. And a line from his piece said, American billionaire Dan Friedkin is working towards a deal to acquire Everton. So there's plenty more on Dave Powell's article on the Liverpool Echo website. But Chris, it's never a dull day at Everton.
No, and to be fair, we've got a live blog on that as well. So yeah, plenty going on. To be fair, Ian, I remember you sort of predicting this might happen back in the summer when Friedkin pulled out in July. Between that and you pushing for Dwight McNeil to move to the middle all season, it sounds like he knows what he's talking about, isn't it?
I'm playing 3 at the back as well. Yeah.
Look, but
He should sit in this seat, actually, shouldn't he?
Don't give me too much credit, Chris. It'll go to my head.
But no, as first predicted by Ian Croll, this was always a possibility, wasn't it? Because we know John Textor's been talking a good game for a long time now, but we're all well aware of the various obstacles that he faces, namely, of course, the 45% stake he's got in Crystal Palace that he would have to dispose of to complete an Everton takeover. So whereas he's been the one given all the sound bites and the interviews, including to some of those people you've mentioned there, obviously a very high-profile chat he had with Alan Myers, was very well connected on to the situation, comparing Everton to being the president of the United States, wasn't it? And a chance to move into the White House. I mean, some people have said it's a tougher job than that, being the boss man at Goodison Park. But yeah, so whereas Tex has been getting all the attention of late, the Friedkin Group are now back very much in the mix, and it just shows you how quickly these things can change. And when they pulled out in July, it was obviously documented at the time. It was concerns over the money owed to 777 and all where that would be from a legal standpoint. Now that's not gone away. I think there's an unresolved court case in New York City regarding that, and the wheels of justice seem to turn rather slowly in that respect. So that one hasn't sort of been cleared the way as such for that. That still remains an issue that would have to be overcome for the Friedkin Group, or indeed anyone else, whether it's Textor or anyone else who was to acquire the club. So that's still there. But maybe with having a couple of months of their legal people looking at it, or maybe it's just a concern of the fear of missing out to Textor. They've made their move, and things, like I said, seem to be able to change very quickly in this. Will it be the last twist or turn? I couldn't possibly say, but I know that Dan Friedkin does have a lot of admirers out there, and people think that, you know, he as billionaires go, he's one of the better ones. But yeah, let's just wait and see.
Before I come to you, Gav, I just want to ask the people on the stream now, we've got over 200 people watching, is the audio and sound okay? Because as I'm producing and hosting, there is a slight buzz that I can hear on the audio, and if there is, then I'm happy to try and just pause it for a second and try and fix it. So please just let me know in the comments if the audio is fine for everyone. If not, I will try and spend a minute or two fixing it, and we'll see what we can do. It might be fine, it might just be my headphones and my laptop, but again, let me know if there's an issue with the sound. Gav, just reaction really. I mean, as Chris mentioned there, I think there was talk of it being a negotiation ploy from Friedkin. Obviously, there was issues with regards to the 777 loan, which he stated as the main reason for pulling out. But your initial reaction?
So bad. It was rumoured early on last week, wasn't it, that they were back in the race and in the background, but that was all about all as it was. They have got previous to this, haven't they? Because I think at Roma they pulled out, didn't they, and then went back in. Yeah. So in some respects, it's not a surprise. My main question is really how are you going to deal with the ACAP issue, the £200 million plus interest? Is that was the blocker last time? I think from what I've heard since, or what's came out since, it's not necessarily the legal case in America. It was more the fact they didn't want to pay the 200 million quid plus interest, that they wanted to pay a much lower amount than that. And so the question is then, how was that? What was unresolvable then would appear to be resolvable now, and so the question is why and how, and that's my main question. All the other bits fall into place. They're better placed than Textor because they've got £200 million worth of their own money in there anyway that can just be converted to equity. So it's a cheaper deal as such. Rights Media Fund will take care of itself. It's just really this ACAP deal and what Kenny King, who's obviously looks after ACAP, is prepared to accept, and what Farhad is prepared to accept as well. I mean, I think the story's there actually that Farhad might actually walk away with nothing, having maybe been looking for 50-60 million quid in the past. So yeah, it's all it's not a surprise, but it's a surprise if you know what I mean. The irony being, of course, that Roma look so over the last week, they've had all sorts of issues, haven't they? Yeah. In terms of
He's a busy man.
They've got third manager in 4 years, isn't it? And the CEO's gone. Very, very, very Everton.
Out the frying pan.
Yeah. You think that they've got hands full with Roma at the moment. Yeah. I'm with Chris in that the Friedkin Group, compared to others that have been linked corporately and as an organisation in terms of their reputation and the way they go about things, appears to be the ideal owner. I think the difference between them and Textor, which I think is more Textor's in Textor's favour, notwithstanding the fact that he can't sell the shares in Palaces, he appears to have like a better feel for football, hasn't he? He's got more experience in football and wide ranging experience as well, and that would say that Textor's probably got more about him in the footballing side, where the Friedkins have got more about them in the corporate side, and obviously they appear to have like more money. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But we've been here before in some respects, haven't we? And this does appear to be a little bit closer to the end game than what we have been before. The other advantage they've got over Textor is they've seen the books in full, haven't they? Yeah. When they did their due diligence first time around, where Textor even by his own admission said, "I've not seen." But they can't see the full financial position, so they've got a better view of the club and its finances than what Textor had, and that also goes in their favour. It's just the ACAP thing. I would imagine there's been, I don't know. Well, I don't know. You would think that, but what would they do? They're going to pay them the £200 million plus interest, and probably they didn't previously want to do that, or is if they got to some sort of deal with Kenny King over it. That one will be, that's the most interesting aspect of this whole thing for me, like it was with Textor, is how you're going to resolve that ACAP issue. You appear to want all their money anyway, don't they? So yeah, but I'll be interested to see how that plays out.
Okay, well, we are going to continue with this, and people have got back on the stream saying the sound is good, but there's one or two people saying the sound does have a little buzz, so just bear with us for a minute and we're going to be right back. Okay, we're back. Hopefully that has improved, and if it's not, then there's nothing I can do.
It's just the buzz about the Friedkin Group coming back in.
That's what it is. There we go, Chris. That joke. Chris, I mean, it's becoming. Hopefully, this is the end, or the beginning of the end, because it's just becoming a tedious process now, isn't it? Yeah. We just don't know what's going on, and now we've got this. Let's fingers crossed this is the end.
Yeah. I mean, Textor, when he came in, what was he? He was the fifth interested party in 2 years who's entered a period of exclusivity, as he used that. And I'm not too sure how that one panned out in the end. But after Friedkin being number 4, so there's been so many different people coming in at various stages, and obviously since Mashiri tried to initiate the sale of the club. I mean, we get told he he does still watch all the games wherever he is in the world. On apparently all Premier League owners are entitled to a stream to watch a game wherever they are.
No Fire Stick job then,
yeah. So yeah,
What's a Fire Stick?
so yeah, Mr. Mashiri does that, and yeah, so he does still keep a keen interest, even if it is coming up to 3 years now since he was last for a Premier League game at Goodison Park. I know obviously he turned the Carabao Cup tie last season against Burnley after Chairman Bill Kenwright died, but yeah, so he's had a sort of hands-off approach in terms of actually being a physical presence at games for a long time now, and obviously the plug has been pulled for various reasons when it comes to the financial contribution to the club, which was once very large, and obviously we've had the PSR issues, and obviously what happened with the Osmanov and having to cut ties with there. So been all kinds, as we all know, have been going on, and we just want to have that new start for Everton. Obviously the stadium brings that for next season in terms of the club's base, but yeah, this needs resolving in terms of who's actually leading the club going forward. It's been an interim board for a long time now. It's existed for over 12 months with Colin Chong, who was initially just in charge of looking after the stadium. You know, he's been acting as CEO since we had those raft of changes the summer before last. Yes, it just needs sorting now, doesn't it? So there's a sort of a clear vision going forward for Everton. But like I said, there's been so many twists and turns. You don't know whether this is going to be the last one.
I think Chris has probably hit the nail on the head there, Gav. I mean, a clear vision, you know, new people with fresh ideas at the top of the club.
Yeah.
It's really impossible, really, to say. But are you expecting them to come in and, you know, keep the current setup? You know, would it be get through this season and then maybe we know that both Thelwell and Dyche's contracts are up at the end of the year. But would you expect a complete revamp?
Don't know. I literally don't know, because the timing of this is everything, isn't it? Really, and by the time it goes through the proper process, that could be still some distance down the line. Our kind of where we're standing in the league doesn't help either, does it? With all of this, I don't know how they approach it. I think it would be very unwise to do a massive change. Let's indulge ourselves. If they take over, you know, November, a massive change then, because the destabilising effect could be catastrophic, couldn't it, between now and the end of the season? And it depends where we are on the table as well when that happens. They may just take a bit of time to look at things and to take it from there, but it is needed. I was thinking with Kevin Talbot's interview last week with the BBC that we spoke about is I think he's in an awkward position as a director of football, and I think it's worth talking about, is that when you're director of football, you come in and basically the board, in a perfect world, should give you, right, this is our vision, this is our plan, our business plan for the football club. You go ahead and implement it. You know, you appoint the manager, you head of recruitment, and so on and so forth. And then, you know, they'll have feedback and support through that process, obviously. And I don't think Talbot's got any of that, has he? He's operating very much in a vacuum, where he's got, you know, even the most effective employees always, you want somebody above you to counsel you, to give you feedback and stuff like that. He hasn't got that because of the temporary board situation, absent owner. And I think that makes his job more difficult in some respects and leaves him vulnerable. He hasn't got the same level of support that other director of footballers have within the Premier League, and we should remember that when we're judging his performance and Dyche's performance, and that is down to the ownership inertia, isn't it? That can only be resolved when a new owner comes in. So that's what I'll be looking for initially. You come in and you tell the director of football, whoever that is, this is our vision, this is our plan, implement it. It may just be in the short term, just carry on what you're doing to the end of the season, and we'll rejig it next year. But that's needed so much, I think, within the club. Because for lots of different reasons, I don't think there's a higher footballing strategy at Everton at the moment, because we've basically gone nearly 18 months without a board, and even before then, you had distractions over the ownership issue, as we know. getting Bramley Moore built, the PSR issue. As we were saying last year, when it comes to the footballing performance, it was probably fourth or fifth item on the agenda, wasn't it, at board meetings? And that needs to be sorted. Yeah. Needs to get the proper support in place for Thelwell and Dyche. That's been absent, because I'm sure that's harmed us. And they become the public face of the club, and I don't think that's right. There should be higher level of accountability, and that's what I'd be looking for say if the Friedkin Group take over, it's to come in and be accountable at board level and ownership, which is not there, and I think that's hampering Thelwell and Dyche. I think that's a distraction to them when they should be implementing a footballing plan, and that's what I'd be looking for. In the longer term, who knows? They may just stick with what we know between now and the end of the season and rejig it then. But it all depends on results on the pitch as well, doesn't it? Yeah. And I think so. So many movable parts there, isn't there? But what we need from the footballing side is direction from board level. Thelwell needs that, and he's not been getting that for a long time. And I think that's because of as I say, all this ownership issue being up in the air.
I mean, Chris, if we go back a couple of years when Moshiri took over the club, I mean, let's face it, I think he tried to do things the right way. He brought in a director of football, Steve Walsh, and brought in Ronald Koeman, and then obviously that didn't work out, and then he's ended up, if we jump a little bit, he ended up bringing in another director of football with Marcel Brands. We got Silva, multiple managers. Moshiri wanted the director of football model. Mm-hmm. Is it just a case of that he didn't get the right people in to make it a success? I mean, what would be your situation now? Would you keep the director of football model, whether it was offer Thelwell a new deal, or let that deal, run down and then bring in another, basically new football operations?
Well, it's been shown it hasn't worked successfully at Everton in terms of. Like you said, 3 directors of football and 8 managers in 8 years. How much that is down to the owner and how much is down to those individuals. Maybe it really is one to sort of reassess next summer. As Gav says, it does depend on the position where they are in the league in terms of a manager. As Dan Friedkin has shown, he's not afraid to make tough decisions in that respect. He's already hired and fired Jose Mourinho and now got rid of Daniel De Rossi, who's a big Roma local legend there. So he's not afraid of making those big calls. I think the jury is out on in terms of that position in terms of the way football is now. It's deemed to be quite difficult for the manager to do all of that himself, and you see increasingly the use of the term head coach like there's been for a long time on the continent. I mean, Liverpool, of course, famously this summer, replaced Jurgen Klopp as manager with Arne Slot, who took the title head coach. So that's the way that things seem to be going. But Everton have sort of struggled with that way. I know that Thelwell has tried to implement a lot of changes at the club when he first came in. How many points was it on his plan? Was it something like 120? Was it something like
points?
Yeah, something like that. So he's trying to sort of revolutionise things at so many different levels of the club. But yeah, I guess rather than what I think is obviously whether it's Friedkin, Textor, or whoever, it's how they want to see things going forward. But you certainly say at Everton, the jury is out in terms of how it actually works between the manager and a director of football compared to obviously where things have been in the past, where the managers are making all the calls themselves. But as Gav says, it's kind of been left to the pair of them, Dyche and Thelwell, in terms of running everything because there's been that power vacuum above them, really.
Is it a go on?
No, sorry.
No, I was going to say, what is it? How many managers has he hired and sacked for Roma now? 3 in 4 years, or 4 in 3?
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought that's what you said before.
Yeah, 3 or 4, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that a concern? A little concern for you then, considering what we've... I know we joked about it before,
Italian football is very combustible, isn't it? And there's a lot of fan pressure. And, they were ahead of way ahead, and it's gone back years ago, isn't it, in Italian football for hiring and firing managers, unhealthy rates. So it's a slightly different culture there, isn't it? I don't know whether, they might learn the lessons that they learned at Roma, they might apply to Everton. But it's just, I mean, it's not really worked. As there's lots of reasons. There's a whole pod, and we've discussed this so many times in the past about why it's not worked at Everton. One of them is obviously that Machiri doesn't want to cede any power, does he? He wants a director of football, but he obviously wanted to have the, with people whispering in his ear, as we well know. He wanted to be part of the transfer process. I mean, I think he said, didn't he, that actually, or Ken Knight said that actually, that the process is we want to buy a player, and then it goes to Bill, and then it goes to Machiri for sign off. Well, actually, that's not the way it should work. It goes to the director of football. He has the devolved responsibility. That's their decision. And it shouldn't really go to the higher than that. I mean, okay, to sign the cheque and stuff, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that
he didn't mean that though, did he?
No. And he was just that's what he was saying. And I know we know he got involved in transfers, bringing players in from the evidence that was given in the the PSR case. It gave the impression that actually the club wasn't necessarily aligned there. There was people doing different things. And you get the impression that like frustrated Brands in the end for a start, and that's one of the reasons why it didn't work. That they didn't devolve all the power on face value for me to the director of football and tell them, right, your role is like it should be. Is somebody once said that a good director of football is like a good central midfielder. Like make the team tick, give them direction. Make all the individual parts work together, and that's what a good director of football should do. But that's not really happened at Everton, because I don't think everybody's been prepared to go in the same direction. I mean, there was a thing in the PSR case, the first set of evidence, that was it. They didn't know what was happening with Calvert-Lewin because Bill was looking after Calvert-Lewin. Well, we don't want that in a director of football model. You want everybody. You want the director of football to have total control. And so I think that's it. People weren't swimming in the right direction, in the same direction, and that needs to be addressed in anything that the Friedkin Group or else comes in. They've got to give the director of football the power, and they have to make it work, and they have to get everybody coordinated on the same page and in the same direction, and that's where we failed in the past.
Yeah, I think right what Gav says there. Maybe it's not a question of whether you have a director of football or not. It's a question of are they allowed to do their job? Because Marcel Brands has been on record himself, hasn't he? He said that when Silva went, he wanted to bring in Mikel Arteta. He went to Mikel Arteta's house and had conversations with him. Then Mr. Machiri goes over his head when Carlo Ancelotti becomes available, and I know both the late Bill Kenwright and Brands had serious reservations. They didn't want to bring Rafael Benitez to the club, and again Machiri sort of pulls rank and goes above them. So maybe it's not a case of do you have a director of football? No, it's like, do you allow the director of football to do his job?
Ultimately the director of football should be picking the manager as well.
Absolutely.
Because when Silva was brought in, if I'm right in saying this, Silva was kind of appointed before Brands was the director of football, and I'm sure Brands maybe have wanted to go down that route of a young, manager in Marco Silva. But when you're being told this is the person you've got to work with, the director of football should be doing the interviews, carrying out philosophies and everything.
And they should be implementing what the business plan, the business model of the board is. And I doubt very much. In the last few years, Everton's been very difficult to develop a plan when you've got no board, and the constant shifting of managers and players and so on and so forth has made it really difficult. And that's what the Friedkin Group, if they come in, or any group, should be first on the list. Once you get all the, when you get the stadium built and so on, that's what they should be doing, and that's been missing. And I'm not digging Thowell out here, because I think he has made mistakes, but I do think the absence of board support for him and board direction, I think, is hampered his ability to undertake the role that director of football should be doing, because he's flying by the seat of his pants, isn't he, really? And he's got PSR constraints to adhere to as well. And we should remember all that when we're judging his performance. But he has made mistakes, but I think that the lack of board support and board direction for both him and Dice by extension has been quite damaging, I think. And hopefully that will change under a new owner, and they can still be in place to carry any new instructions out, really.
Yeah. I mean, all reports Chris is suggesting that this is like quite close. It could be done quickly. I know we're not going to know the answer to this, but you know, it's what is it, September now? You know, how quick do you think this could actually get done now?
But in theory, I mean, it could be done quickly, given that I don't think Friedkin would have the issues in terms of jumping for all the hoops like 777 did, and obviously he doesn't have the issue that Texter has or had in terms of dispensing of his shares at another Premier League club. So he's already, as Gav has said, seen all the books in full when he had that period of exclusivity in the summer. So if they really do want to do a deal, it can be sort of weeks rather than the months. But is it the last twist or turn? A big problem is, and sort of going back, probably the last thing we'll say on the issue in terms of a lot of people come out of conversations with Farhad Moshiri thinking one thing, and then the reality of the situation is something else, and it sort of alludes back to what we were just saying. It's my understanding, talking about Silva and Marcel Brands, that when Marcel Brands was appointed as Director of Football of Everton, it's my understanding that he went into a meeting right at the start of that in which he thought he would be interviewing Marco Silva for the manager's job. And so I think my understanding is, walked into the room with Bill Kenwright. Obviously, Bill's not here to talk about that now, but yeah, that he came into that meeting and under the impression he'd be interviewing Silva for the job, and then Silva came in with Mr. Moshiri, and Brands was told that this is Marco Silva, the new manager of Everton Football Club. So if that is correct, that sort of tells you everything you need to know about dealing with the one-to-way majority shareholder. And unfortunately, these impressions that people get from talks with him and then come out, and the reality is actually something quite different.
Yeah. Final point then before we move on to Leicester, Gav. I guess the one big role that's going to be played here is the Premier League directors test and stuff like that, but shouldn't be an issue.
I mean, you would like to think as well that there was some dialogue with the Premier League in the first time of asking, you know, when they were going through the due diligence and the exclusivity, you would like to think to push the process on once they were happy with the books, and obviously they weren't. Once that was done, you know, at the same time they were talking to the Premier League and making sure that, you know, that everything that the Premier League wanted, they could deliver. Because remember, there was conditions the Premier League had with 777, didn't you? Remember about paying off the ACAP money and so on and so forth. You know, the right to media funding, all that type of stuff. You would think that they've already had quite a lot of them discussions already, and it'd just be a case of rubber stamping the agreement once the ownership is being agreed with Moshiri, and that can be rushed through. You know, it may be weeks, who knows, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, it's, as mentioned, it has become a tedious process, you know. And
been here so many times before, haven't we?
Yeah, so hopefully this is the beginning of the end. We'll move on to Leicester then, Chris. So, other than the bad weather, what did you take from the game?
It's got to be positive. It was a positive. It was an improvement on what we've seen so far. I mean, that's maybe, it's not saying much, is it? I mean, have you actually worked out, is it just alphabetical order that they're off the bottom, or is there some sort of other reason why they're above Wolverhampton and Wanderers?
To be clear,
they're off the bottom. I thought they played well, and generally, goal was disappointing that they conceded. Probably as much as he missed the chances again, not obviously as clear cut against Southampton, but I think with Jesper Lindstrom going off, that seemed to be a turning point. And Everton lost that out ball, and obviously Ndaya went off as well, who was Everton's. I think I'm not sort of sticking my neck out here saying that he was the best player on the pitch for Everton in terms of what he was creating. Obviously, he got his first Premier League goal. Just let Leicester gradually getting back into it, and then when it finishes, you're almost thinking, oh, Everton are hanging on a little bit there. So, yeah, I think as the manager said, was it a small step or something like that along those lines in terms of.
I think you said it as well, to be honest.
Yeah, on the same page. Yeah, it was. It was. It was better. I mean, I think we all kind of went for a draw, didn't we, in our predictions? We said whether a 1-1 or 0-0, and it's kind of panned out that way. But yeah, again, Everton should have done a bit better once they were ahead if they'd have just gone 2 goals up. Although we know obviously they've had trouble defending 2-goal leads of late. But yeah, if they'd have just sort of had that sort of extra sort of gap between themselves and Leicester, maybe they'd be able to hold it out. Because as the manager also said, to be fair, they did sort of restrict Leicester to not so many chances at all. But the goal was a bit of a mess, really, the way they equalised. Generally, yeah, in the context of everything and the struggles, and we've got to remember that obviously they've had illness throughout the camp as well, which wouldn't have helped going into that game. Yeah, I think it was generally positive and something to build on at least to going forward to what are obviously an important couple of home fixtures before the next international break.
Definitely, and Chris, you were obviously at the King Power with Joe, so both you and Joe did post-match reaction videos, so you can watch them on the YouTube channel. Gav, it was a positive performance, I think that's fair to say, but the fact that we did take the lead and then relinquished it again, is it a point gained or is it 2 points lost for you?
2 points lost.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. But at the same time, being a positive point gained. You can't
have it both ways.
Such a thing. Yeah, it was 2 points lost, wasn't it? And in there's that stats, we lost more points from winning positions than any team. In the Premier League this calendar year, isn't it? There's quite a few. Lost 7 in 3 matches. Definitely, as the game panned out, half time, you're thinking, let's face it, Leicester aren't that good. With all due respect, we should be winning this. After 90 minutes, and in the end, when you look at the stats as well, I think we had 5 shots on target. They had 2. We had more shots. We had than them overall. We had a decent portion of possession. Certainly in the first half, far more than I had against Southampton, ironically enough. And I thought we moved the ball well in difficult conditions on occasions. But yeah, it's 2 points lost, and you know what? I was cursing because it was such a stupid goal to concede in that. It was very. I put a little blame on Pickford here. I think when the ball's zipped in, isn't it, to the end of the 6-yard box, the goalkeeper has to come out. We conceded a very similar goal against Spurs, wasn't it, in the 4-0? Where the ball came in from a corner, and I can't remember who headed it in, from 4 or 5 yards out. And Pickford's got to come out and do something there, which he did with the corner shortly afterwards. If you're rooted on your line and the ball's come across the 6-yard box, you've got to be asking questions of your goalkeeper, albeit that defensively we didn't do well, did we? And on the balance of play, that was the only way they were going to score, because they hadn't been cutting us open. I thought defensively we were decent. Some people who've had stick recently, like Keane, Young, were solid. And that was the frustrating thing, is that we just conceded a needless goal, really.
How concerned are you then with Pickford's form? Because there's a lot of people, including all of us on here, who have come away from pods and not being overly critical, but said he's definitely not been top draw this season. And in the past, he's the player that you look to at least win us some points. And is he costing us points now?
I thought that was just me. On side, I thought that he should have done more, and you could argue that he did cost us a point, but defensively we should have cleared it. He had that funny one in the first half, didn't he, where the ball squirted out from the Leicester City player to his near post, and he ended up sort of pushing it. You got away with
Then Vardy tried to barge him in the net, didn't he?
You pushed the ball against the inside of the post. It could have gone anywhere. Could have rebounded straight into the back of the net. A little bit. I think it'd be interesting to know. He appears to have an issue the season after a major tournament. In 2018, he had a great World Cup. Didn't he come back the following year, and it wasn't half as good as what he'd been in 2000 and
Euros hangover
17-18. So I think that's possibly an issue. But yeah, I think he's not shown his best form, and that probably impacts on the defence as well. But it was definitely 2 points dropped, but quite a few positive aspects to the performance.
You mentioned Ashley Young as one of the positives. Why is it then that he seems to be more suited to playing left back than right back?
Because I think because most players now are inverted wingers, aren't they? They'll come inside. I think if you're a right-footed left back coming inside, I think he's less vulnerable, isn't he? Because they're coming in on his right foot, and he can stop it far more. He'll get found out if somebody's going out wide, past them, and I think that may come into it. I think also that Njai does a lot of hard work as well. Did on Saturday, and he looked a bit more comfortable. And he has done it left back for last season as well.
What an assist as well, by the way.
Great pass.
Someone described it, I don't know who this was, but I'm sure I saw this tweet, Roberto Carlos-esque.
Oh, don't about that, but I said the combination, to be fair.
Yeah.
A little bit reminiscent of Pienaar and Baines, the combination down the left. So, fair play to them. And, Ashley Young, I always think that he sort of, he takes sort of fewer risks, I think, at left back. Because he is a natural right footer. He almost thinks when he's at right back, he's roll back the years or whatever and still do what he could do 15 years ago or so. Whereas maybe at left back, he just sort of plays it safe a bit more. But, lovely combination for the goal between the two of them.
Sorry, I'm just collating some of the comments, and I've just seen a really funny comment, which I'm not going to be able to read out fully because there's a swear word in it, but it is quite funny. Do you
blue into the Royal Blue podcast?
Yeah. Do you agree with Chris, Gav, regarding Lindstrom? Promising performance, but do you think him coming off contributed to Leicester getting back in the game, basically?
When did he come off? Was after 60 minutes?
60 odd minutes,
hour mark,
Yeah. Possibly, though. I was looking at somebody said last night that he's already played half the minutes this season as what he played for the whole of last season. So he's hardly played a full 90. I think it's February was the last time he played a full 90. He's hardly played full games for over a year. And so on that basis, you could see an argument why he was taken off. The only thing is, at the same time, it was damaging because I think did Harrison come on for him, and he's obviously been ill, hasn't he, Harrison, and that was reflected in his performance. He struggled, and I possibly have kept him on, and Jai, who similarly doesn't do a lot of 90 minutes. He came off 10 minutes from the end, wasn't he?
Yeah, and obviously they brought Robe and him, so they've sort of mixed it up a bit then, didn't they?
And that was frustrating because I think if you're playing for 80 minutes, you can play for 90 minutes, can't you? And
it didn't look tired to me.
Yeah, and I think if you're a Leicester fan or part of the Leicester management team, and he's you're doing the thing that the opposition wants, isn't it? You're taking him from the game, but he's on the pitch, he's still a threat. And I thought that one, I could see the Lindstrom one, but the NGI one, I couldn't really see. Would have just kept him on the pitch. And from then on, we the substitutions as individuals didn't work, and we struggled to stay in the game, didn't we? Leicester had a lot of the ball without really threatening. But the advantage to get stick, doesn't he? He got stick against Bournemouth for not making substitutions, and when he does, you get stick.
Well, I think it's make the right ones.
Yeah, I think Lindstrom, I could see, and Jai would have just kept him on the pitch.
Yeah.
Do the thing that the management of the opposition don't want you to do, and that was keeping him on the pitch.
Thing is, if you take a 2-goal lead with Lindstrom on the pitch, then it's the perfect time to take him off. Who knows what could have happened?
Two goal leads in Everton. Yeah. I mean, that was a missed opportunity, wasn't it? I thought we played some really good stuff on Saturday.
Very good stuff.
And where Lindstrom got the one-on-one when he burst through, and he just had to pass it to Njai and he blocked it. That was a frustrating passage of play, but I really liked. I mean, it's in difficult conditions. We zipped the ball around to good effect on Saturday, especially in the first half.
I think Lindstrom's definitely going to be key to that. Everyone's talking about Ndai, but I felt who did we play in the Cup? Southampton. That he was criticised a little bit after the Southampton game, and I felt it was a bit unfair and unwarranted because of everything you've just said with regards to how many minutes he's actually played. I felt he went missing at certain times, but there was times where he was whipping balls in, he was getting into good areas. Okay, he was through on goal, and he missed that chance against Southampton, which could have, obviously won the tie for us. But it's just another promising performance Saturday and a build-up. He's got to start again for me on Saturday as long as he's fit.
That's what do you think, Chris? That's a decent 3, isn't it, behind Calvert-Lewin?
Very good,
Lindstrom of McNeil and Njai. I think that's probably the best we've had in that area of the pitch for a long time.
Yeah, the fact that he's getting into those positions, we're all frustrated. With those 2 big misses at Southampton, had chances at the King Power Stadium as well. But hopefully, if he is shaking off the rust, those sort of chances sooner rather than later, putting them away, you'd hope. But he's obviously, he's a threat. The fact that he's just getting on the end of these balls and he can pick a pass as well. So yeah,
there's a couple of frustrating refereeing issues in the first half, wasn't it? That was a foul on DCL, wasn't it?
When is there not?
The edge of the box. That was the first thing. The second one was the foul given against Njai.
I think
slipped over. He was going to ground anyway, and the referee gave the foul, and Njai would have been through on goal. And then at the end of the first half, McNeil had the old pitch to himself, and the referee blew up for half time when we cleared it. And that was frustrating. But I think it was an encouraging afternoon. I think that probably like a lot of Everton fans, I saw the Mangala Decore midfield pairing at the start, thinking, not so sure about
I'm going to
that.
say I nearly tweeted this out and I didn't, and I wish I did because it would have made me look like I know what I was talking about.
You do, though?
No, I was going to say that I thought with Iraboom coming out, I know people like what he's done over the past couple of games and he has been promising, but I think there's issues when it comes to providing protection to the back four. So there's going to be a lot of work with regards to him. I felt Decore dropping deep, partnering Mangala as the centre midfield pair, and I just felt it was going to add a bit more steel and a bit more protection to that back four. And I'm glad we brought it up because let's talk about Decore. Predominantly used as a number 10, Chris, over the past couple of years. Done well, obviously. Being Everton's top goal scorer from times, but he's not a naturally gifted number 10. Let's face it. He's always, prior to Dyche, always played predominantly as a central midfielder, and I always think he's better at progressing the ball further forward from deep. Running with the ball. What did you make of his performance?
I had a lovely chat with him afterwards. He told me he actually enjoyed playing in those conditions. I said, have you ever played anything like that? He's like, no, it was great. Check that one out. But what he did say, to be fair to him, he said, people try and compare me to Iliam and Jai, and he says, I can't believe that they're trying to do that.
Who's doing that?
I think just because obviously when Jai's kind of come in and played left wing, but when he first came in, people were thinking he'd be the 10, wouldn't he? So they've sort of thought that as a like for like, not like for like, but they'd be occupying the same area of the pitch. Yeah. So mates, he said, you can't compare me to him, but I thought he did well in that role. Because you've got to remember, it was only when Dyche came in, and we all thought, Everton going 4-4-2 now because he played that way for the best part of a decade at Burnley, and he springs the surprise of having Decore as the most advanced central midfielder in a 4-5-1. That's kind of right. The first time he'd done that. And so going back to that sort of the 8, nominally the 8, where he's been playing most of his career or whatever, just alongside Mangala at Leicester, it's sort of more natural for him. And I do wonder whether going forward that will be the sort of way things will go for him now. His birthday's on New Year's Day. I think he's 32, and although he's still super fit, you just do wonder after those 2 hamstring injuries that he had last season whether he will be going to operating more on a deeper basis, especially with as Gav's just said, those more attacking players that the Everton have got in those areas now, especially if you can put McNeil in the central area and the 3 of them with Lindstrom and Njaya. So it might be the way forward for Decore now that he is a bit older now and there are those different options within the squad. But I like it's only one night, it's only one game, and as we've said, Leicester City, newly promoted Leicester City, they weren't playing one of the big boys, but it was another reason to be encouraged. The fledgling partnership between him and Mangala, who just seems to obviously at that sort of nous and that Premier League experience, he could actually be a very sort of useful signing, considering he was only brought in on deadline day.
Yeah. Well, what's your thoughts on Decore then? Is bringing him back deeper in the more central position the way for him to just keep himself in that Everton team? Because there's Ndiaye, McNeil are probably ahead of him now as the number 10. Yeah, I know Ndiaye's been playing on the left, but you would have thought they're a lot more skillful than Decore to play that role.
I think so. I think I like the way the 2 of them synchronised one another on. I thought they were quite close together. They were coordinated. There was spaces between our defence and midfield. As the game progressed, you could see gaps, appearing. But certainly in the first half, we were quite cohesive, weren't we? And the 2 of them I thought it worked really well as a partnership. I was a bit wary of when I saw the team sheet with all due respect to them. And I think Mangala, he was another one who he ran out of likes a little bit late on, didn't he? But understandable in the conditions. I thought he did well. I think he's a decent player. And I'd like to see more of that partnership. I do think, like a lot of things though, against the better teams, that's when you're going to be judged, aren't you? Really, I mean, and we'll just have to see how it pans out. Because you've got Garner, you can play there, haven't you? You've got Garner Gay, you can play there. We've got Iraboon, so we have got options. But is there a real natural partnership between any of them five? That'd be quite difficult to get. But those two in those conditions, I thought did excellent on Saturday, particularly in the first half.
I think he's still trying to find his best team, isn't he? I think, let's face it.
Yeah. But it's not helped by the fact we've had injuries and illness.
Yeah.
That's really hampered us. And I do get the fact that actually some people have said actually the players look a bit undercooked, fitness wise.
That's a whole different pod.
Yeah. and I think that hasn't. And that has now. I get. I think Joe's spoken about this before. Sometimes the peak is not at the start of the season, fitness wise. It's to save yourself for later in the campaign. I get that. But the players have looked undercooked, I think, and we ran out of legs a little bit on Saturday. But yeah, I thought it was promising from both of them, and I think the Corey, he's got more chance of getting a game there than I think in this position he was playing.
Definitely
playing last year.
Okay, well, I want to do some comments before we finish off, because I've just been collating them as we go along. Before we do though, Chris, just talk about Branthwaite and Patterson, who both featured during the under-21s win over Sunderland yesterday. Joe Thomas was there to cover it, so if you want to read any of the content with regards to that, you can do. But are we seeing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel with these two players who are kind of desperate to come back?
Yeah, hopefully. It's a home game now for Joe. Old Hague Avenue, Southport. So he probably just strolled across to go to that one. Hopefully. Obviously, Jarrad Branthwaite played the full 90, and if you read Joe's report, I think he was making sort of last-ditch tackles right at the end of the game for Everton to hold on. I think was it 4-3 against Sunderland. I think Patterson maybe played about an hour or something. So obviously you've got the movable feast that is right back, and Garner in there at the weekend. So for him to come back, but yeah, the big one, isn't it? Jarrad Branthwaite. Everton's breakthrough start of last season, most valuable asset at the club. I mean, you can't put it all on his, very broad young shoulders there, but only 22 years of age and one sort of season of Premier League experience. But yeah, he's such a game changer. Just his presence, if he was back in the side, I know he's going to have to find his way back in terms of his form and fitness. But if Everton just able to have him back, it'd just be a massive boost for everybody.
And Gav, probably same question really. Just glad to see Branthwaite back on the grass and
he's using Dychisms, isn't he?
Yeah. Got to. Yeah. I mean, I think Chris is probably right in the sense that we can't put too much pressure on him. But
last time out,
it seems to be his omission from the team because of injury. Seems to be the main trigger contributing to us conceding a lot of goals. A factor.
Yeah, it's a factor. Of course it is, but I don't think it's the only.
Well, we've already said Pickford's one.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of other things going on there, isn't it? That we haven't got a right back midfield combination hasn't worked in some respects, and we've ran out of legs in games. There's lots of stuff going on there. Yeah, it gives everybody a lift, doesn't it? And it gives supporters a lift.
Yeah.
Because that is the big thing that fans, and like I was saying, that's it. You're right. After all that, he is the biggest factor, isn't he? You would hope. At the same time, you have to give a warning that he's not coming back into the same team he came into last year, because defensively we have looked vulnerable. Pickford's looked vulnerable. Mikalenko is currently injured, so poor form. As he's been ill as well, hasn't he? So he's not the player. He's not the player he was 12 months ago in terms of his own fitness. And that partnership really helped us, didn't it? The Mikalenko Branthwaite one. So it's great to see him back, but there's a lot of hard work to be done by both Branthwaite and the rest of the team, isn't it? Really, it's not just a case of it would be great. Jarrad's back in, everyone's fine. No, there's a lot of hard work to be done. And
you're missing the game because you're going to be in Porto on holiday, aren't you?
Could be, yeah.
Do you want to give a quick prediction before we go on to?
Wow.
No, well,
of Palace.
Because you're not going to be on a Friday pod.
Takes no prisoners, does he?
Yeah.
Go straight into it.
You know what I'd say is, right, okay, think about this, is the one, Dice is in a job and Everton in the Premier League because he's won all the games against teams in and around us, hasn't he? If Everton in the table, if you have a look last year, we finished sixth from bottom, half our points came from the teams below us.
Okay.
So and Palace were just above us, and we took 4 points off Palace, didn't we? So he's been really good at winning those matches, and as long as he's carries on winning the matches, he's going to be all right. And the problem is, so far this season, he hasn't, has he? Leicester should be 3 points, should have got something against Bournemouth, possibly a point against Brighton.
I guess you could say,
And,
so sorry to interrupt,
yeah.
Leicester winning the league last year, but the season before we did draw with Leicester.
Yeah. But the 3 teams that came up last year, I think we took 6 off Burnley, didn't we? I think we only got 1 off Luton, so I'm sort of arguing against myself here. But, but we did well against all the teams near the bottom of the table, didn't we? Palace, they've struggled, haven't we? And I don't know what way I'm going on this conversation. He was interesting. You described it as a must-win game, didn't you, over the weekend?
So I took a bit of stick for describing it as a must-win game, and I didn't mean it in the sense that if we don't win, we're getting relegated. It's not that. I just think for everything that is centred around this game, if we lose it, I don't see where we go.
It's a not lose game, isn't it? Which is not the same thing.
I think a draw's even poor, to be honest.
I'd say I'm going to do my normal bottle job. I said 1-1, didn't I, on Friday?
I said 1-1 as well.
Yeah.
No, you said 0-0.
Oh, did I? 0-0, yeah.
Both me and Chris said 1-1.
1-1 on Saturday, which is not the end of the world. But he's got to start winning the games against teams around him in the table. Yeah. Otherwise, he's got problems. And Palace, even though they finished last season really strongly, are a team you were classed as being in and around Everton in terms of the strength of the squad.
Well, they've had a win. Not a great start themselves. So
it's a got to win. It's a got to win game if we're going to get where we were last year. So you're right. It's a must-win game in that context.
I just think a gap will start to appear.
Yeah.
Like 5-point gap between us and Palace.
Yeah.
Ipswich play Villa, so you'd expect Villa to win, but it's not the question with Ipswich being at home.
Yeah. There's 6 games, is there, against that? You're looking at the fixtures and thinking we could get. If we want to repeat last season, we've got to get a lot of points in these 6 matches, because then it gets a little bit scary, doesn't it, at the end of November?
Yeah. Okay.
So 1-1 after all that.
Yeah. You going 1-1?
All that?
Yeah.
What?
That's my bottle job thing.
After all that.
And that wouldn't be the worst result, but I think it'd be disappointing.
Oh.
Good job, you're away. You're going to be
away.
Yeah,
he's going to miss it all.
Chris, I'll ask you your prediction
at
the end later in the week.
A few more days to consider it.
Okay, questions then, or comments. So there's a lot on Friedkin, and there's some on Leicester and there's some on Palace. So Friedkin seems more stable. Don't know why. He just does. No more loose cannons.
John Texter, he's gone for a soundbite, isn't he? We've seen him. Because obviously, as has been mentioned already, he owns a stable of clubs. Obviously, Friedkin owns Roma, but Texter's got Molenbeek in Belgium, Olympique Lyonnais in France, and Botafogo in Brazil. And was in one of his Brazilian games when he was ranting and raving about the ref there, wasn't he? And the famous video. And then he's obviously been involved in some court cases there as well, in terms of him moaning about the way things are run over in Brazil. So yeah, he's certainly he's not backwards and coming forwards, is he, in terms of his the statements that he's made. Obviously, he's already at the inverted commas rap on the knuckles from Everton in terms of talking about where he's at, whereas Friedkin just seems to sort of get on with it quietly. I know there was a piece I did over the summer, if you want to check that one out, a bit of background on Friedkin and sort of his extracurricular activities, because he's a very sort of accomplished aviator as well as that. I mean, billionaires have got billionaire hobbies, haven't they? But he sort of gets behind some good causes there. I know he's involved in a lot of conservation, both in Texas, where he's based, and in Africa as well, and he helps to repatriate American soldiers lost in the Pacific Ocean in the Second World War. So he's got some interesting sort of hobbies, as it were. So yeah, 2 rather different characters, but yeah, I don't know. We still can't say definitively which way it's gonna go down, do we? But yeah, it's obviously been a big change this morning with the news that Friedkin is back in the fold.
Gav, Emma EFC says, the only thing that worries me about Friedkin over Texter is, we will be top of Texter's pyramid of clubs. Not sure with Friedkin.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. If you're in a football group, you normally have a hierarchy. I think in the Texter one, we'd probably be, in terms of income terms, top with Rome, but it's not so clear cut, is it really? And that point was raised when the acquisition was first mooted during the summer. That can lead to difficulties, can't it, over business priorities, and especially if Roma have got a few issues. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. That's one of the benefits of football, football group, isn't it? Really, you can switch resources and prioritise to your advantage. I think that's pretty fair.
They wouldn't be behind Roma, though, I don't think. I mean, obviously 30 years ago, Serie A had a lot more money than the Premier League, but not now. It'd be certainly think there'd be parity, and if anything, Premier League, there's more money in Premier League than there is in Serie A these days. But yeah, I
think Roma it's fair. I can't remember the figures. It's a little bit less than Everton, I'm not sure, but it's not massive disparity, and they are like the main club in the capital city of Italy. So there's a stature there, isn't there? I think that's a fair point. It's interesting to see how they manage that if they do come in.
Either way, it's another owner who obviously it was the same with 777 that they've both got at least one club. Obviously, Friedkin got Roma, and obviously I've just mentioned Texas clubs. It's another multi-club either way, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Bit of a sidetrack question here, but Wormy Spoon says, I don't care what Thelwell says. Anyone who thinks it's a good idea to sign Dele Alli needs sacking. Stop flogging dead horses. You haven't been a big fan of Everton's. Not pursuit of Dele Alli. You said you didn't want Dele Alli, basically.
I don't. I said, well, yeah. I just don't see where it would take us as a club.
Seem keen on it though, don't they?
Yeah, which is fair enough. And they see Dele Alli in training and see what condition he's in, and so they're obviously far closer than me. But the general concept of it, a player that we let go in the summer, and sort of staying around the club and getting fit and maybe putting a contract offer to him, it's not something I would necessarily support. The one thing I would say, I fit Dele Alli, who's firing on all cylinders, is a player could make a difference for us. But I just don't know. It doesn't seem like for where we are, why we'd want to do it. But Thelwell and Dyche are far closer to it than what I am.
Okay, final two questions then to finish off. Chris Simon says the club needs a clear succession plan for players, manager and director of football. That's what Brighton do with Bloom, the owner, and Barber, the CEO.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Chris. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Well, yeah. But what an example Brighton are. This is. You often wonder, with all that Everton have achieved in the past and the way things have been and the expectations, Brighton to come in as a club sort of without that at all. Obviously. Club who's never won a major honour, and it's almost like doesn't seem to have hampered them. They've got that clear plan, and just look at the way they were. Oh, you would say on the flip side of things, despite all that went on at Everton last season on their on-the-field performance, they matched Brighton, would have been points wise, but yeah, you just see the players that they've been able to bring in, and just a seamless way they can change the manager, because that's obviously an issue with where Everton have chopped and changed, just flitted from one sort of extreme to another. I think the most extreme case was obviously between like Allardyce and Silva, but the fact that they can change their manager or head coach, as it were, and just sort of seamlessly move on. They definitely are a great example of that stability. And if you think where they were as a football club and they're not too dim and distant past, that's just what everyone just wants, a clear sort of direction, don't they, for the whole club. And if Brighton can do it, just think what Everton could done if run efficiently.
I mean, you mentioned the manager leaving and then someone coming in replacing him. They've sold. How many players have they sold that they've managed to be able to bring in?
Yeah.
Fantastic recruitment. I
guess what they do, don't they? They say, look, we will improve you. We will give you that platform in the Premier League, and we won't stop you going somewhere else when somebody comes in. So if you're an up-and-coming player, whether that's from South America or one of the other markets that they use, they've got a sort of proven pathway there, and it's proven very efficient, and that obviously helps them to reinvest, because when they have to get the big money, so it's only like last summer, was it Casado, 115 million, whatever, and obviously the other big money sort of sales that they've had, and they just enables things to keep carrying on, certainly now from a PSR perspective, which is Everton have never really been able to do that.
And former Everton player David Weir, director of football, is that right? Isn't it?
Oh yeah, he's down there. Yeah.
Okay, Gav, last question. Dave Mack agrees with you. He says, getting back to matters on the pitch, before Dyche's stupid subs on Saturday, Mangala and Decore dovetailed really nicely. Best engine room for some time. Progressive football, but 2 points dropped.
Yeah.
Which is what you said.
Any of that, yeah. But still, you can say positive things of getting a point, really, in the circumstances, comparing and contrasting that performance on Saturday to the one against Southampton as well. So yeah, I wouldn't disagree with any of that.
Okay, any final comments before we finish off?
All I would say is that a week can be a long time. Time when it comes to Everton. So I know Gav's put his prediction in early doors, but who knows where we'll be at come Friday.
Yeah. We've been here before, and you won't believe it until you see that your owner sitting in the director's box at Goodison, taking the applause of fans and so on. But this looks promising. Interesting what I don't want to go back on it. What was it Alan said in his 500 million pound?
Yeah, he put out the tweets. Obviously, don't know.
Interesting to see what that's for.
You say that Gav 777 were in the director's box for the best part of last season about a deal being done. True. So
but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know, brief comments in the match day programme. Great to be here. That's when we'll finally believe it, won't it? Yeah. Everton is a great club, great history, etc., etc.
Okay, well, we'll finish off. Thank you for sticking with us on today's stream. I think there's a lot of people said the audio's been fine, and there's a few people said the audio hasn't. So I will try and look at that after the show. But if you want to listen to this podcast back in full, you can do so after the fact on our audio channels, the Royal Blue podcast on Apple and Spotify. So you can listen to it twice with less buzz on that one, because I'll enhance the audio.
Nice. Wow, enhance Gav Buckland.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll finish it there. Thank you for joining today's show, and please remember to hit the like and subscribe button. All the support is greatly appreciated. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Chris Beesley and Gav Buckland, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.